Some people claim that the atrocities we commit in our fiction are those inner desires which we cannot commit in our controlled civilization. So they are expressed instead through our art. I don't agree. I believe heaven and hell are one and the same. The soul belongs to heaven and the body to hell.
Welcome back to the Blasphemous Cinema Podcast. I am your host, Jake, and with me today is, of course, my trustworthy co-host, Addison. How are you doing today, Addison?
Good, how are you?
We're doing good. We're doing good. This is our second attempt at this. We are here to... I'm excited to be here, as always, but I think this one's a very interesting discussion. We are here to discuss director James Benning's Landscape Suicide. Came out in 1987, and it's like kind of a documentary in a way, kind of not. Basically,
It's like a documentary, I guess.
yeah, kind of, but like I don't know, like it treads the line so much. Like there is actors basically portraying certain individuals, but you get like actual depictions of the areas these murders happened and everything like that. So it kind of treads that line pretty thinly, I would say.
Yeah.
So this film recounts the parallels between two murders that took place 30 years apart. The first half of the film is based on the murder of Kirsten Costas, who was stabbed by her high school friend Bernadette in Northern California in early 1984, and the second half is devoted to the infamous homicides and taxidermies committed by Ed Gein in Wisconsin in the 1950s. Yeah, this has been on our watch list for a while. I just thought it was a very interesting premise, and like the idea of exploring Americana through these murders is such an awesome concept.
Yeah. That was probably the most interesting part.
Um, I I will say we have another like interesting little tidbit once we're done discussing this, but yeah, I think the most interesting part about this was how are you gonna depict America and Americana through two murderers, one murderer and then one serial murderer. um I walked away thinking this is some of the most brilliant documentary type shit I've ever seen in my life.
I knew you would like it
Yeah.
as I was watching it.
Yeah. So I'm very, very high on this, and I walked away like, wow, that shit was incredible. How'd you walk away from it?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely really clever. I think the whole movie's clever. I don't know if I would say I loved it, but
Yeah.
I liked it. I think it's good.
Yeah. Kind of looking more into James Benning, like did you look at his filmography at all?
I mean, I've heard of him.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen some of his. I haven't seen any of his other work, but I've seen other people like talk about how weird and like avant-garde his other stuff
Yeah.
is.
Dude, he's directed over like 90 things, and if you look at his like directing credits, they're all like, I wouldn't say all, but like there's a far majority of them are just like depicting America and like different sections of America,
Yeah.
which
seemed
is
to be
so
very
cool.
into that.
So cool. And I think just from what I can tell from Landscape Suicide, it's a, like you said, avant-garde in a way, but it's like kind of like a brutally honest thing.
Mhm.
Just letting the images speak for themselves in the way that he sets up these shots and everything. So yeah, let's kind of get into it. Didn't know what to expect off the bat once we got this opening.
It pissed me
Dude,
off.
Yeah,
It
I
pissed
was.
me. I thought
Yeah,
my fucking movie was broken. I swapped.
that's what I thought too.
I went to 3 different versions to watch it, and I was like, "Are all of them skipping, or is this like my fault?" And then I figured out. I was like, "Oh, that's actually the movie."
Yep. The first 2 minutes is just a tennis player like doing serves, but like it's cut and edited in a way where it literally feels like the exact same clip over and over and over again for 2 minutes.
I think it was actually like 3 minutes straight, and it looks like
Yeah.
it's looping. But I realized, like, I think after the third time I was trying to watch it, it's actually not looping. You actually see the tennis balls in the bag.
Yes. Yeah.
There's less and less of them in there.
Yes.
But at first, I legitimately thought, I was
Yeah.
like, what's going on?
Yeah. I like went to like 5 minutes to see if there was another image. Like I didn't like fast forward, but like I saw if there was like another image at the 5 minute mark. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is on purpose. So you get like this, like he's just setting up these serves, and then you get like just a shot of like the other side of the tennis court, and it's just littered with tennis balls. And it's just like, okay, that's interesting. I like what he did with that.
Very interesting shot.
Yeah.
Artistic.
Yeah. Then we get immediately another interesting piece of direction where you're like the camera's like set in this car and it's rainy, we're in California, and you're listening to the radio and it's basically reciting like Bible verses and stuff.
It's a Christian radio.
Yeah.
And you know what? This intro reminded me of the beginning of Long Legs.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if Oz Perkins did that on purpose, but that's exactly what it felt like. That eerie kind of weird passenger seat voyeurism vibe.
Yeah. And like this is like instantly what I'm talking about with James Benny, where it's like he's just putting you in this frame almost and just, all right, experience what I want you to experience. And it's just by this like couple minute clip of just like being in this car and just like roaming through the neighborhoods of California. It is so authentic and real, and then you just add that little, that extra layer of direction of adding in like the Christian radio and everything, and it's like he's telling you everything so well.
I mean, it's also kind of eerie that supposedly the shots in the car, he's driving around in the area where the murder happened. Supposedly, I don't know if that's true, but
Okay.
it just makes it feel even more eerie.
If that's true, fuck. God.
The girl, I can't remember, like Bernadette, I think her name is.
Yeah.
Like her whole story is about her planning to meet her and convincing her to meet her and talking about driving the car, whether she wants to be taken home or not. And so I thought that was really weird, or not weird, but eerie that he placed that before the testimony.
Yeah.
And it's like after you listen to the testimony, you're kind of thinking back to what that passenger seat kind of car view was about, and then it makes it even more creepy.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that. Let me add to this point. So I don't know. I've been listening to this one band recently called I Hate God. I with a EYE. And they're like musical focus is like trying to depict Southern discomfort.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, Landscape Suicide is trying to depict American discomfort.
That's true.
And so I was like, that's perfect parallel there.
Which I think it did well, because this is the first movie that's made me physically uncomfortable without doing any gore or violence or anything like that. Like, it was the first part of the testimony of Bernadette's. Before I knew she was an actor, it made me physically uncomfortable because I thought I was just sitting here. I thought I was trapped with this person. I was like, do I really have to look at her for
it's
30
like
minutes
it's like
straight?
20 minutes, like over 20 minutes long.
And the narrator's voice made me uncomfortable too, how like childlike it's trying to be. Like the whole thing just felt like a nightmare scenario. I was like, I feel gross right now.
What a testament to how effective this film is.
Yeah, it's just good direction, honestly.
Yeah.
If it's meant to make you feel that way.
Yeah. And so we get the testimony of Bernadette and basically kind of just describing her experience, and the editing style with here as well, just like all the combined, not only in this section but in others, is like kind of like disassociating, where like it's like almost like a structured disassociation in a way, where
Yeah,
like
like it's the same shot, but it's
yeah,
cutting out.
you get the cuts, you get structured cuts, but it also feels like disassociating at the same time.
And it's
And
weird because you usually, like, I guess in film class and stuff, whenever they teach you to cut, it's usually to be able to cut to something else or
yeah,
hide continuity. But this movie is not doing that at all. It's just cutting in the middle of a single frame that's unbroken. So
yeah,
nothing feels right.
yeah. Um, the actress that plays Bernadette, her name is Rhonda Bell, and as you said, um, this listening to her testimony and like finding out performance
Yeah.
is uncomfortable as hell.
It made
It's
me
like
physically uncomfortable.
because she nails what, like, honestly, what kind of what you'd expect a teenager to act like in this situation, where she's she's trying to act like remorseful without like really being like blatant about it. Like
Mhm.
she's like trying to be honest, and like she kind of just doesn't understand why she ended up taking those actions that she did. Um and going further and just like, you know, saying like if I could take everything back, I would. That type of thing. Um Essentially, she's like just had this quote unquote, not really a friend, but she thought she was cool, so she decided to be around her more. Um, but this quote unquote friend, um, basically was always kind of putting her down and being mean to her, saying mean things.
Which who
And
knows if she actually was is the other
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Like, what if she was just messing around with her, like, casually, like, for fun,
yeah,
and she just took it as
the wrong
something,
way. Yeah,
like, very malicious, even though it wasn't.
yeah.
You really
Um,
don't know.
no, you don't, because you only get like the one side of things here. Um, and essentially, like when she got in a car, there happened to be a knife in the car already.
Yeah, also weird.
Yeah, and then she pulls up, um, to her friend who's also meeting someone else, and then essentially just go like after she says something mean to her, goes up and just like stabs her repeatedly. Um, it goes home, and the whole time like she's like very paranoid, like she's just waiting for like the cops to show up. Um, but then she goes on a walk with her mom and her dog.
Yeah, the whole thing was weird because I guess I don't really know the real story, so I don't know how much time passed before she actually got caught. But it's just weird that it's just like
Yeah.
you went back to normal life, I guess.
And yeah, it's deeply like there's a point where like the interviewer asked her like how much blood was on you, and she was like there was none at all. It was just like that for some reason that made me so uncomfortable. Like there was just like nothing. And going back to Rhonda Bell's performance, I think one of my favorite aspects about her performance is when she's talking about going back to school. Like
Yeah,
she's acting like her life's gonna go back to normal and she's gonna go back to school, and she hopes that she can basically carry, she acts like she's gonna be able to carry on with her life in such a, it just feels
it
so
feels
real. And
yeah.
it's like it's interesting to see that because like I don't know, like I've seen in plenty of instances and just like seeing other interviews of, you could say like the same line of things where like they also think no matter how horrendous the act they've committed, where they've tried to like do that. And
Yeah.
that's like just their line of thinking. um yeah, I
I guess that's kind of just that mental, like the thing that they always say about the killers or people that do things like this, where it's like for some reason they they kind of split, I guess, where
Yeah,
it's like
and
they can block out something or hold it back or
yes.
act like it just never happened.
Yeah, and that's like kind of like what also like one of my bigger points about the whole thing is you after the first one I noticed this and I turned to my roommate Momo and I pointed this out where it's like it's crazy how many times in these situations where the murderer just like blacks out and doesn't remember the actual act.
Yeah, like their brain is psychologically trying to, I guess, erase it for them or make things easier on them.
Yeah, so I was just like, shit, it's just another one of these things. And
It's wild.
yeah, so we get, 20 minutes of listening to this testimony. Um, I th- one of I wouldn't say heartbreaking. That's not the right word, but it's really kind of dishearten. I don't even know what the right word for it is, but like she's talking like essentially through the interview like to her parents like I hope they forgive me and that they still love me and I couldn't tell them what had happened. um yeah, so that was definitely
Yeah, like she wrote it in a note
yeah
because she
yeah
she couldn't tell him physically or something like that.
yeah I want to talk about that note. um After the testimony and the interview is done, James Benning uses this like almost like retro upbeat design background
Hmm.
and sets the note on top of it for us to read as like what kind of music would you like hits back then on the radio like almost upbeat.
It's like their version of what pop, I guess, would be.
Yes,
Which again, I
playing
guess
in the background.
it's that
Yeah,
juxtaposition of the Americana, that
yeah,
thing that he's trying to do.
and you're reading. James Benning holds this shot and basically, cuts to show the other sides of the pages. So you read this whole note.
Hmm.
And while the radio is going on with the background and play, and this was like one of my favorite segments that I thought was so brilliant at displaying like America and just like kind of like, just all of those type of themes that he's trying to hit on. Um, her detailing like I it does feel like one of the only routes to take is suicide, but I know this she's talking to her parents, but I know that would only make you guys more sad and everything than saying like please don't stop loving me even though I committed this horrible act. um yeah, it's like kind of like a tragic thing. um
I mean, definitely for the parents. Could you imagine
yeah,
being like the parent of a kid like that? Like, I don't even know how you would really go about
yeah, like
doing something.
she doesn't tell you, right? She goes to jail or whatever, and she tells you in this note what she had done. And yeah, such a tragic thing for the parents to experience. I can't remember. Have you seen We Need to Talk About Kevin?
Yeah.
And that kind of reminded me, like when I think of stuff like that, I think about that movie a lot and like like what the parents have to go through in these situations.
Yeah.
Even with like a proper upbringing and everything, you never. I mean, we don't know what kind of upbringing she really had, but let's assume that it wasn't that bad or anything. It's like parents
Yeah,
did
because
everything.
even with people like this, even if they have the best upbringing ever, there's always something that's just they're not wired properly.
Yeah,
And
and
it just sucks for the parents all around,
yeah,
especially for
because
like
they feel like they've done the right things by them their whole lives, and then something like this happens, and yeah, it's
it sucks for both sets of the parents. Because of being the parent of the perpetrator and then the parent of the victim, you're both of them you're kind of just like how could I have stopped this? Like
yep.
there's it just sucks all around.
Yeah. So I did think, like, yeah, The Note was easily one of the best aspects that James Benning brought to the table here in terms of direction. Um, then after that, we get like 20 segments of just being around the town.
Which I love that. I love
Dude, it was fucking incredible.
Yeah. Like seeing the, I guess, just like the different stores and the gas stations and diners, and then the shots of like, I guess you see like the church steeple at one point, just trees, fields. Like it just looks so good. But it's just uncomfortable, the eeriness that he always has when he shoots something.
The
'Cause the
uncomfortable,
sound-
yeah, the sound design's amazing. Um, and like, yeah, that eerie nature, but like at the same time, I've never been more immersed in another place across America that I felt like I just through these shots I totally understood the area.
Yeah.
And I totally understood exactly everything that I need to know about this town and how this town felt, and yeah, what it was like living there and being in that environment. And like the narrators at one point were like, once I went to this town I understood the murder on a deeper level. And that's dropped before we see these shots, and then like, so it's like you're experiencing that in real time through these shots with
Yeah.
that context.
And you see the snippet too of the girl on the phone, which I guess you can assume is supposed to be a version of Kristen, or at least that's what I was thinking. Was that she was supposed to be an object of like the victim, but not actually the victim? Kind of like one of those things where true crimes and stuff, how they do reinterpretations, or
Yes.
like I think that was supposed to be him making fun of it, James Benning.
Okay.
Because the only reason I say this is because I think in the true story, when I looked it up after I watched it, apparently Bernadette was actually a blonde in real life, and Kristen was a brunette.
Okay.
But in the movie, the actors he got a brunette for Bernadette and got a blonde for Kristen. So he inverted them, which I just thought that was interesting. Like again, that juxtaposition thing that he's playing with.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know. Again, I don't know how much of this is intentional.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting.
I will say, like, there's two of those segments in this film, one for each set of events. So this first one where you get like basically the 5 minutes of just this teenage girl in her in her bedroom on her bed talking on the phone with music on and shit like that. And I will say this was like one of the, like, trying to understand these to their full extent was definitely one of the most challenging aspects about this film.
I just remember him saying, or I guess the narrator, when he's talking to Bernadette, asking her about, he talked to her on the phone about the meeting, and she told her to dress nice, and he was asking her if she told Kristen to wear the skirt, and the girl in the bed was wearing a skirt.
Okay.
That's the only reason I kind of was like, is that supposed to be the victim?
Okay. Now, given that context, does that line up with the second one for Ed Gein?
I couldn't, some of the Ed Gein stuff I honestly couldn't really place just because of the way he talks sometimes. I didn't have subtitles on, so I didn't fully hear him all the time.
Okay.
I don't really know about the Ed Gein ones particularly.
I'm trying to think if, like, because like there's a segment in the Ed Gein one where it's just like the lady dancing to old time music in her living room.
Yeah, which I just assume girl dancing is probably.
Yeah, the victim or whatever.
I think
that's
what
I'm trying. Yeah.
That.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If that's the case, another brilliant to add to the fold.
Yeah. Again, I just think that's the juxtaposition thing he's playing with, where he just, like, I feel like this documentary is trying to be anti-true crime.
Yeah.
Where it's like, instead of glorifying it or stylizing it, he's like deconstructing it and de-stylizing it in the as much as
in the most haunting way haunting and brutally honest way possible, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like you're not supposed to get any enjoyment out of watching
No,
this.
no, and it's like it does an excellent job at showing us an authentic American reality and conveying these landscapes. I mean, like that kind of goes into the whole point of landscape suicide. You know,
Yeah,
exactly what you're saying is like you're deconstructing, you know, the whole idea of what you just said through these landscapes that you're kind of used to seeing in a different light, and he's using them for in a deconstructive manner here. And yeah, legit conveying like towns like Orinda where this murder took place to the fullest degree without being there.
yeah. Like he's like inverting everything because I guess you could say usually in true crime stuff that you watch, it's usually investigators or victims or lawyers retelling stories,
Yeah.
and then you have reenactments. But in this, you have inverted reenactments, and you're not hearing it from other people. You're hearing it from the supposed killers
Yes.
themselves, and it's like it's just one of those things where it's like your brain just gets uncomfortable. It's like I don't want to be listening to this person.
Yeah. And now that I think about it even more, it's like the true crime stuff that I have seen, I'm not like necessarily like a fan. I don't
It's always
I don't consume
yeah.
true crime in that way. But like in the stuff that I have seen, how often do you actually feel like you understand the place that these events took place?
Yeah, or ever
Very
even
rarely.
yeah. Like it's always exploitive, or it comes across as exploitive.
Yeah, where we're not actually giving the time of day to the entire scope of things.
Yes. Or you have the chicks on like YouTube doing their makeup and nails while they tell gruesome stories as like clickbait. Like you know what I mean? Like it's weird stuff like that. It's all very exploitive.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of I know this is way before the chime of true crime, but I feel like Benning kind of had a little prophesizing going on where he was like he kind of saw where this was going in a way where he was like I don't want to exploit this, but I kind of want to say something about it.
Ahead of its time.
Exactly. It does have its time.
Yeah. Um, so then to end it off, we get like the shot of the tennis court.
I mean, yeah. Wild again.
And that ends the first part. How does that how does that
I mean, the ending one is wild too. The great actor. Like these actors are like Oscar worthy performances.
easy?
But this movie would never get
No,
award
no,
attention
no.
just because of how dark it is. But it is crazy how good these actors are.
Yeah. Before we get into the Ed Gein one, the actor portraying Ed Gein is Elian Sucher. Suture. Yeah. So you get, Bernadette committed one murder. Now we're getting into
Then you get the
you
multi-murderer.
were getting serial murderer territory.
And taxidermist.
Yeah, as a person who has been around Wisconsin my whole life, yeah, this was deeply unsettling.
I bet it was for you.
I mean, it's like I feel like I already understood what the lands like what he was like trying to convey with like the stuff that he showed throughout Plainfield, Wisconsin, and like all these landscapes I'm kind of like used to, like I've seen them my whole lives, like those type of landscapes, just Wisconsin in general. So he shows us around Plainfield, Wisconsin, and it's a very rural area. It's not very urban at all. Lots of open land, lots of forests, wildlife, deer, particularly, and he shows us some like rundown buildings some older bars that don't look great, and it's like, yeah, this legitimately feels Ed Gein is from here.
Yeah.
Like,
It makes you feel uncomfortable, and it's also one of those things where it's like I feel like everyone knows who Ed Gein is, even if they don't know the details, just because of stuff like Silence of the Lambs or Texas Chainsaw. There's so many movies and people who talk about like this was inspired by
yeah,
Ed Gein, like I feel like everyone just knows that name, so it also just feels even weirder when you see the point of origin of something
yeah.
like that.
It's also kind of crazy too, because like, yeah, I know where Plainfield, Wisconsin is. Like, that's not too far north of where like a common tourist attraction, Wisconsin Dells, is, where like I've been before. Then
Hmm.
on top of it, so you have that, then like, John Wayne Gacy like was like in Deerfield, Illinois, and that's not far from me. So it's like I'm just like getting these like two crazy things like right close to bat to bat.
Yeah,
When you think of serial killer proximity to me, it's crazy. Um,
two of the biggest ones,
yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
most well-known ones, notorious.
Um, so kind of like the note with Bernadette's, we get Ed Gein's transcript, like a transcript of like a testimony or just of Ed Gein, and this was very tough to read.
Yeah.
We, um,
He's so blank.
like,
Like
yes,
he's so
he's
it
so
feels psychotic.
devoid. It feels devoid of human like emotion.
Yeah, that's probably the best way. It feels he's so empty, it's disturbing.
Yep, and so like he details wearing a person's face. One of the more wild things and vile, disgusting, all of those things is spray painting a woman's severed vagina because it was turning green, and it's just like, dude, I had never heard that one before, but like I saw that, I'm like, holy
Yeah, I had never heard
no,
that.
what the fuck, man?
That's what I'm saying. These testimonies are just hard to sit through. Like it makes you physically uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's just like rationalizing that these things did happen is just unbelievable.
Like you don't want to think about people like that existing. And it's just awful that there are people like that that exist.
Like the example that I brought up, what mind even thinks of that?
Exactly. It's like why? There's no logic or reason.
Um, so then we get the actual like testimony, with Ed Gein. Um, so his like the murder that basically that he is describing in this testimony is him just going to a random. He's going into town and goes to a shop to discuss buying um, a shotgun, or wait, no, it was a rifle. It
I
was a
think it was a
rifle. It was a rifle, and basically him already having bullets on him, putting a bullet in there, and then when he had his finger on the trigger and accidentally pointing it at her and killing her in the store.
yeah.
Um, and where like he again disassociates this entire thing, blacks out, doesn't remember dragging her body out of the store, putting it in his truck, and bringing it home.
Wild.
And all of the stuff after it, he doesn't remember, like the headlines and everything about like cannibalism in Wisconsin, where they found, you know, was it the heart that was on his yeah, he was cooking
Yeah.
her heart on the stove, human taxidermy and everything throughout his home. um there's even a point where they show the diagram of how he um cut off a person's face.
Yeah.
That was
It,
so unsettling. It
yeah.
made me so uncomfortable just like seeing how that, I was like, okay, like I've never
I
actually
didn't want to
seen
know
what
that.
I have never actually seen what that actually entails, and now I do see it, and then it's like, yeah, didn't want to see
It's
that.
insane how broken someone can be, and just like how I don't even know how to describe it. I don't even know if you could say it's just broken. It's like how unhuman a human can be.
Yep. Um, and so particularly with this testimony, um, like you had said, we get the transcript, and we can already kind of tell that Ed Gein as a person is short, direct, devoid of a human emotion. And then the actor literally gives performance, masterclass performance in portraying that.
Yeah. Like
Like,
it's scary good how just plain I guess he is.
yeah, so like the interviewer is asking him these questions, like ones that, like, I guess you could say like weren't like short answers, and he's just like sitting like this. I don't know. Yes, I guess. And it's so uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
Um,
Which I've never seen actual footage of Ed Gein or know anything about how his voice sounds, so I don't know how accurate it is, but I mean, whatever the actor does performance wise, he definitely sells it that he is
yeah. Um,
broken.
yeah, and I think at the end of the day, like this whole testimony, what we see here in this film is like that's the biggest takeaway for me, is just like how he's selling this performance and selling Ed Gein's personality. Um, and yeah, the whole thing of just him saying, I mean, you don't know necessarily how true some of this stuff is, that, but like him saying that basically he doesn't remember anything, that he basically at the sight of blood he had said like
Yeah. He passes out,
he passes out.
which
Like
makes
he
no
said,
sense.
like he said when he was growing up, like when during hunting, if like a deer would get dressed, like he had to look away immediately because it would make him pass out and black out. um so who knows how true that is? We don't really know. But essentially, he's saying that every single time that he is dabbling in any sort of like act against another human, essentially he's blacking out.
Which you find out at the end that he was, by trial, which lasted 11 months, they said he was innocent by insanity. And then he spent like the rest of his days in an insane asylum.
Yeah, and multiple too. Like it wasn't just like one. He spent it in multiple. Um, yeah, don't we don't like that.
Yeah,
That-
because again, you don't know how much of this. Like, of course, he's definitely crazy, but you don't know how much of it is played off to where he knows that he can get out of actual prison time.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing too, where it's like a lot of these serial killers are pretty intellectual people and understand what they need to do to kind of work their way around things. So, you know,
Yeah, because I mean, it's like we know there's something wrong with you.
yeah,
Like you don't have to tell us that, but it's just crazy how many of them do the insanity plea.
yep. Um, so then, like a perfect parallel to the beginning and now to the end. So in California, it was the tennis balls, the tennis court. In Wisconsin, we get the ending, and it's a person dressing a deer that he had killed.
Which did you read the credits?
What is Santa Cruz?
The credits of the movie, like at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I read like what are you referencing?
Like it's just crazy that the person at the end is killing the deer is James Benning.
No, oh my god, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, like it's the director. So again, it just feels like him just toying with the audience, where he's like, you know what I mean? Like that's the only time he's in the movie.
We just watched some all time shit,
That's what I'm saying.
man.
He's very clever.
Yeah. Um and that's kind of uh, all together. This is a brutal, uncomfortable, and authentic depiction of Americana and like the
Yeah.
state of America during these times. And you can kind of like talk about the whole thing where like how people don't really give proper attention to how bad things are and like how the shitty things that do go on in the world. I think all of those themes are there. Um, is there anything you want to touch on in regards to that?
Oh no, I agree. I mean, I definitely think it's a movie that is really subjective, and it's also one of those movies you can't really do it justice by talking about it
No,
because
I
there's
totally agree. Yeah.
like it's one of those movies that's hard to talk about because so much of it is subjective and atmosphere.
Yeah.
So you can't really describe that to people.
Yeah, you can only do so much.
Yeah,
And
so I mean,
it's a very experience based thing.
yes. I mean, I think the goal of the movie was to make you think and to make you uncomfortable, and it definitely does that.
Yeah. Um I am certainly sitting here really wanting to watch James Benning's other stuff. Like this makes me want to just like dive in and just watch a bunch of his shit.
Yeah,
Um
he seems interesting as a director,
yeah,
filmmaker.
he's still alive. He's old as hell. I think
Oh,
he's
he's
in
still
his
alive?
yeah, he's in his 80s. Um but yeah, that was Landscape Suicide. I had an idea to kind of touch on to like go off a little bit of their discussion. This inspired me to bring it up. Um, Other notable depictions of America in film.
Yeah,
Um, for
I made him.
me, I kind of went in the same route that where I feel like Landscape Suicide does, where it like actually feels like a legitimate depiction rather than like okay, it just takes place in America.
Yeah, see, I didn't know what you meant when you told me
And
something that depicts America, so I kind of just shot from the hip and just picked
okay,
five movies I
yeah, I
think.
mean, yeah, I mean, like, I think that's I'm totally, it's your interpretation. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
I didn't know the
I'm
spec.
definitely going for a certain thing, but like, I think bringing your own interpretation to that and like your own view on that is makes for a better makes a more interesting conversation. I'll say two of my five films are we've covered on the podcast.
One of mine is.
Okay.
We
Um,
might have the same one.
I wonder if we say it.
Punishment Park.
I did not. I debated on it. Um, yeah. So Punishment Park, that was just a sweltering, kind of like desert heat. Like you feel that sweltering depiction of like America in the worst way possible.
That is, yeah, it's a very political film.
Um, Still relevant to this day. Um, yeah, that's like that's a pseudo documentary. It's a mockumentary, and guess what? It feels exactly.
Yeah,
It feels too real to be fake.
it feels like it could go hand in hand with Landscape Suicide. Like you could do a double feature of those and just be
At
miserable
a
for the night.
yeah, like at a film festival idea, like two mockumentaries. Let's put those two together.
Yeah, and the whole audience would just be out there, just like
I
Jesus
fucking
Christ.
hate it here. um,
Can I have something to drink?
yeah. Um, well, yeah. Let's get the ones that we've done on the podcast out of the way. So I'll go Gumo.
Okay, that's a good one.
Um, I've never been to the Appalachians at all, but I
Yeah,
know they are impoverished as hell in certain areas, and I think Gumo is one of like the best depictions of how derailed some of these communities are, and just
Yeah.
like how like the mindsets and like the atmosphere and how people act in these communities. I mean, that was one of the most dirty films we've ever seen. I think you can say that for both of us.
Yeah,
That movie's not. You feel unclean watching that movie,
for
and
sure.
and you know, in terms of that area of America, like yeah, there's plenty of places in America where I could say like, yeah, I don't feel clean here.
Yeah, and I'm not even the biggest fan of Gumo, but even still, I think about the analog of the cat in that movie towards the end, where it feels like that was, the last hope essentially, and it gets killed. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's the tragic ending kind of thing. Again, a tragic ending.
I have the 4K of that now on Criterion. Like, I'm not even like a super fan of Gumo. Like, I gave it a 3 with a like, right?
Yeah.
But like, I saw 4K and I'm like, give me that. I want to see that in 4K. And then the other one from the podcast, Elephant,
Okay.
which
That
is
makes
like
sense.
it's Elephant. You know, that was one of the most experimental films I could say that we've done for the podcast.
Structurally,
Yeah,
yeah.
structurally, yeah. Um,
And I guess formally, the way
yeah,
they do it.
yeah. Depicting a mass shooting at a school and the lives of those affected throughout that day. Um, and you know that is like a thing that is very much an issue here, and I do think it depicts that in a very honest and real way. And on top of it, I felt like that movie really felt like a time capsule to that specific time.
Yeah, I can see that.
Um, your next pick.
Do you want me to do one of them or two of them?
Um, just do two. You're good.
So my first pick was The Wolf of Wall Street.
Ooh, interesting. But all right, so yeah, explain why you picked Wolf of Wall Street.
Because I feel like it's like one of the most misunderstood movies to, I guess, just normies, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah,
Everyone thinks it's a Project X party movie when
it's
really it's just
absolutely not.
yeah, it's about capitalism.
Yeah,
And I mean, I feel like that's America.
no,
Like it's that glorified capitalism,
Mhm.
and it's just what happens when everything just goes way too much into it.
Yeah,
And that's how you see the downfall in the end of the movie for that one is basically the same way. It's like you are the audience in the end of the movie. Sell me this pen. Like he's basically had our eyes this whole time. And I feel like everyone that just, or I guess not everyone, but most people that movie just goes over.
it just
their
goes
head.
over the head. They're not like thinking about that. Like, oh, that was a phenomenal time. I laughed my ass off, and it's like,
Yeah, they're
entertaining
like,
as
oh,
hell.
Scorsese does it
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Like they don't think the deeper side of it, which I might be generalizing, but from the most part, from what I've
No,
seen,
I think I
don't
can
get it.
totally say that is true.
Yeah,
I
it's upsetting.
you know, it's interesting. I didn't put it on there, but like I did have the thought of putting The Big Short.
Yes, another good pick.
Kind of going off of your Wolf of Wall Street, but next pick.
Which I did put one with Ryan Gosling in it.
Oh,
Which I put The Ides of March.
oh, interesting. I thought you were almost gonna go put Place Beyond the Pines.
Which I mean, yeah, that was one
That
I
was
thought about.
I debated putting on that one on too.
I thought about it just because that is. I did though. There's a reason I didn't put that on here though, and it's because another one of my picks.
Okay.
But I did think about that one. But I picked The Ides of March just because I think it's also very politically strong, the way in what it deals with and what it talks about, how all the politics are basically like proxies.
Yep.
And they're all just proxies for other people's agendas and money and like lobbying, all that bullshit.
I've never seen.
Well, that's basically-
I know what like yeah, it's like tackling, but yeah, that's been on my watch list like since 2018, and I still haven't watched it.
It's really good. It's interesting, and I think I've never trusted politics before that movie, and after I watched it, it just made me not even trust
more
it.
like yeah, yeah. Let it be known, there's no such thing as a good politician out there.
Absolutely.
So another interesting depiction of America, you could say, like, the sewers, I don't know, the dirtiness of America in the city landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Taxi Driver.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I felt like that also kind of feels like a time capsule in a way now at this point. Where,
And
like,
another misunderstood Scorsese movie.
yeah, you're transported to the dirtiness of New York effortlessly. This movie is, you feel like the city is a character.
The whole movie feels grimy, and it's
Yeah.
also the same way like James Benning put himself in Landscape Suicide. Scorsese's cameo in Taxi Driver is all-timer, make you uncomfortable, and you know exactly the person he's playing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like that's very Travis Bickle's an interesting character, but like you can very much like kind of also you get in that whole thing of like I would say conversation of like product of your environment type thing.
Yeah, and what you've
And
been through in the past.
yeah, and I think when you see how grimy and like a cesspool that New York City is in this movie, like it's a really strong conversation and thematic resonance to that.
Oh.
So we each have one more.
I have two more.
Two more. Okay, you go another.
Starship Troopers.
I this is awesome that you picked that.
That's the military-industrial complex movie right there.
Yeah. I haven't seen in such a long time. But yeah, elaborate
It's
on
the
your pick.
greatest satire about fascism I think that has ever been made, and also still misunderstood to this day. Like how many people think it's a brain-dead action movie?
Oh, and people think it's a fascist movie. There's like people who think it's a fascist movie,
even though it's commentating on that. Because literally, I mean, I think the first time I saw it, it was right after I'd taken a philosophy class, and someone said there was a quote about fascism in the class, and they were saying it's where you destroy all rational thought. And the end of that movie is literally all three of the main characters that you watched from high school to where they get to the end where they all look like they're wearing SS Nazi uniforms, and they take a giant brain out of a cave and blow it up. And it's like, how obvious can you be? And people still miss the point.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
I remember like very recently on Twitter, someone had posted a clip of like him on the back of the alien and like him blasting away at it, and like someone saying like how awesome this clip was, and like the person quote tweeted it was like, we're supposed to feel bad for the creature in this moment. You're not supposed to be rooting for this.
He's the guy who's watching the movie and he's like, the only good bug is a dead
exactly bug. Yeah So phenomenal pick.
I love it.
I'll go with my last pick. This one, a newer movie, and I do think it's like very representative of its time that it depicts, and I think the way that the landscapes are shot in this movie and the aesthetics, like how the town feels, is all very poignant, and that's Wildlife.
Oh yeah. Is that the Paul Dano?
Yeah, the Paul Dano directed movie.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it feels all of it feels so desolate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what Paul Dano does with like the landscapes that he portrays and like how he represents the town and just like how America was back then, is profoundly authentic, and it feels super real. Yeah, and just like the attitudes of everyone's back then. Yeah, I think it's a great fucking movie, and I think it's a great depiction of actual America.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
last pick, sir.
My last pick is the reason I did not pick Place Beyond the Pines because it also deals with police, but it has a very on the nose ending that's very real life. So that's why I picked Black Klansman.
Oh god, yes! I can't believe I actually like. There's like so many of these where I'm like looking through my films list, and I'm like, yeah, I want to go more in a certain direction with my picks, but
Yeah,
Black Klansman is perfect.
that was the only reason I did not pick Place Beyond the Pines, just because I didn't want to have two movies that both are dealing with police, even though they're both very good and have good points about them. But yeah, that was my final pick. And
Uh,
plus that ending, I mean, that's like one of the most gut wrenching endings
I
that like I've seen
I
recently.
still think that is one of the most important films of our time.
Yeah, and it gets no recognition, or almost no recognition.
Yeah, I mean, I think that movie's a masterpiece through and through, from top to bottom. And yeah,
All of Spike's new stuff is really good. Like
the
Defy
Five
Bloods,
Bloods,
so good, and one of Chadwick Boseman's final performances, and
in
it's so amazing.
his five, yeah, that his performance in that movie, there's something so otherworldly about it.
Well, I think I watched it after he died, and it makes it
It makes it
even
more
it makes it
transcendent,
yeah, it makes it even harder to watch when he's talking to his buddy, like on that little I
dude.
wouldn't say beach, but on that brook with the river
Heartbreaking.
and everything. Yeah, it's gut wrenching. But yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know Spike's recent stuff. I guess all of his stuff really. I mean, he's just always been incredible. But it's just crazy to think that that movie lost to Green Book.
I,
Wild, wild
and
behavior.
that's a statement about
That's what
our
I'm saying.
fucking country in itself, you know. Um, yeah. Uh, I think about Klansman a lot, and
Because wasn't that the Green Book year? But
yeah, no,
wasn't
yeah,
Black also that year?
yes, yeah. And do you
And they
remember?
gave Green Book over Black
Yeah,
Panther and Black Klansman,
yeah,
both made by
yeah.
black
Don't
directors.
yeah. Do you remember? I don't know if you ever saw it, but like the red carpet interview Spike Lee did.
Not my
Um,
cup of tea.
he's like, "Are you British? Are you British? Let me use your British saying. It wasn't my cup of tea, dude.
My favorite,
All time shit.
my favorite thing about that Oscar ceremony is I think it was like right before they called the Best Picture, but there's footage of Chadwick Boseman in one of the front rows, like looking back to somebody, like shaking his head because they know they're not going to give it to Black Panther or Black Klansman.
Yep,
Like he just automatically knew. He was like, I know these motherfuckers aren't going to do it,
yep.
and they didn't. And of course, it's like God, the
Um,
cycle continues.
yeah.
It's like the Bo Rap where Bohemian Rhapsody just like swept, like editing and everything. It's like, how did
One of the
that
worst
movie
edited movies I've ever seen in my one
of
of the
all time
yeah, yeah. Um,
fucking hack job?
yeah. Final pick for me. Um, I don't know if you've ever been up this way towards in America, but I certainly have, especially during the weather season that it depicts, and that's Fargo.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think Fargo is such a great representation of that section of America and like the attitudes of people, how the environment feels, especially in the winter and everything. Yeah, Fargo is definitely one of the most notable depictions of America, in my opinion.
Yeah, and of course, geographically, that movie is about a lot of landscapes and barrenness and empty space, negative space,
Yep,
kind of the same thing.
yep, yeah,
I see why you would pick that with landscape suicide.
yeah. Um, but I mean, like, dude, there's so many movies we could have picked for
Oh
this
yeah, I mean
list,
that.
and that could, yeah. Um, So I'm glad, you had some variation compared to mine, because yeah, all of yours made perfect sense.
I didn't know
Um,
where you were gonna take it, so I was just like, I'm just gonna go this route.
yeah, I think you had all incredible picks.
Same
Um,
to you.
Thank you. Um, so Addison,
Oh shit! I have to pick the next movie.
you
Don't
do
I?
have to pick the next movie.
Shit.
Um, then the episode after that, I'll bring on a guest, like kind of like every you know guest regular episodes for two regular episodes
Yeah.
guest. So like
Okay.
that kind of cycle.
I'm
Um,
down with that.
yeah, and like when you were talking about your other picks earlier too, like I also like debated on putting on No Country for Old Men, Rebel
Yeah.
Ridge. Um, yeah, there's so many movies that you can add.
I was struggling at first because I was like, I don't really know exactly where I should take this, and then I was eventually just like, okay, I'm just gonna go this route and pick these five.
Yep.
There are so many movies on this list, and I always forget to look before we get on here, so I'm just scrolling through these.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I want to watch a Mur.
Oh, let's go. Is that
Just because I recently watched Let the Corpses Tan by the same directors, and I was interested in watching their other stuff.
okay?
So a Mur,
Why
because they're
don't you?
coming out with a new movie this year.
What year and what's it about?
A Mur is a 2009 film, and it's supposed to be a modern take on a giallo, like Italian horror films from the 60s. So that's why I'm interested in it because I love Mario Bava. But it says searing memories and carnal desires rule the mind of Anna, a young woman in thrall to her own fantasies, whose visions and obsessions draw her towards deeper eroticism and deeper danger on a modern take of giallo.
In. So
Sounds interesting.
that'll be the next one that we get into. Um, have you ever been to like a larger film festival?
I've been to the Savannah SCAD Film Festival when I lived down there, and that
Okay.
was pretty big. I
Okay.
saw Arrival and the Florida Project opening night.
Awesome. Next week I'm going to my first one. I'm
What is it?
going to Roger Ebert Fest,
Oh, nice.
and that's gonna be in Champaign, Illinois. Um, I'm going with a bunch of my friends. Dude, they're such a cool lineup. Um, the first I've never seen first night they're gonna be doing on 35. I think it's either 70 or 35. They're doing The Searchers.
Oh, that'd be awesome to see in 70. I mean, it's gonna be great to see on film either way,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Um, dude, you're not gonna believe what's at 9 a.m. the next morning, and who's gonna be there for it.
What is it?
9 a.m. the next morning, Megaopolis with a post Q&A with Francis Ford Coppola.
I would sit there and be like, "Why'd you do it? Why'd you make it?"
This was announced on April Fool's Day, and I thought for sure that was like absolutely, like they put in the chat like Megaopolis is gonna be at Ebert Fest with Francis Ford. I'm like, you're joking.
Jesus.
Um, but there's a bunch of other really cool shit that they're doing.
Very good at that
Um,
man.
I think either they do this every year or they're doing it just this year for the anniversary. But the final film to wrap up the weekend is The Hangover.
Oh wow.
So
That's a
that's
good
yeah. It's funny just like have a film festival just capped off with the Hangover. Um, did you ever see I'm Still Here?
Is that the Joaquin Phoenix Casey Affleck movie?
No, the one that just came out last year um, was
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I have not seen that. That's the one about the woman, right?
yeah, that's gonna be there.
It got Oscar attention.
Yeah, that's gonna be there. Um, yeah, and there's a lot of really cool, exciting things. Um, So yeah, I'm excited to go to my first film festival. So yeah,
I hope you enjoy it. Have a good
thank you.
time.
Yeah, that Francis Ford Coppola Q&A is going to be interesting.
That is definitely going to be
Yeah.
interesting.
So as always, thank you guys for watching, for listening. This has been Landscape Suicide. We will catch you next time. Peace.
Peace.